You've traveled a long way to find me. Oh? You want to learn Dragoon, but you're unsure of the path to take. Very well. I shall grant you my wisdom and teach you its arts. Of how to use the point-to-pull stick thing. Bam! How to Dragoon 101.
Hi, welcome. My name is Masie, but since you came here looking for a guide, you may call me Professor Masie. As a background for me, I personally love dueling, and after hours upon hours, I have amassed knowledge on all dueling classes at a high level. To add on, most of the info I will be informing you is a beginner's guide on how to play the classes in dueling matches. However, a lot of the concepts can be applied to both Feast and Frontlines. If you are looking for advanced level information, I suggest joining a Final Fantasy XIV PvP Discord, as tutors and mentors there might be able to provide you the advanced level of guidance you are looking for. Today's guide was made in collaboration with the lovely folks from Primal Wolves League. If you play in Primal or love PvP in general and are looking for advice or want to talk, feel free to hop into their VC or general chat and say hello. As well, they have provided us with spare notes in the description below, so feel free to check them out at any point in the video. In this video, we will be covering these following points: Mirage Dive Management, Buff and Burst Rotation, the importance of movement and range, counterplay and how to counter said counterplay, additionals, as well as Feast and Frontlines. Please note that even though this is a beginner's guide, I highly recommend reading over your actions and skills before continuing forward, as it will make understanding the concepts and abbreviations I will be using in the video. Thanks. Hey, Editor Masie here. These guides are a lot of work, from storyboarding to recording then editing, as well as brewing a significant amount of coffee that helps me stay awake. So, if you like what you see, it would truly make a man like me very happy if you hit that subscribe and smack that bell so you can be informed of any future guides. Anyways, on to the video. Alright, let's go. Physical range DPS. But hold on, it's not range, but a melee? Well then. Dragoon. This hybrid love child, born from the unholy matrimony of both ranged and melee, is the pinnacle of aggressive DPS. Its powerful legs are able to jump in from long ranges to propel itself, doing high damage to both close and long ranges. It's a lot of ranges. This class awards playstyles that dive face first into combat, leaping on to targets with high single target potency, as well as high DPS range moves like Drg General, Nastron, Talon, high jump, Dart Diver. Okay, whoever made this class really wanted to play range DPS but couldn't, so they made this. Anyways, Dragoon excels in creating burst opportunities. Just like how Monk has a lot of OGCDs to weave in, Dragoon has a lot of OGCDs to weave in. However, unlike other melees, Dragoon can burst from long ranges, often deceiving its pursuers and escapees, giving them a false sense of security when in reality, they are playing in the exact distance they want them to play in. Before we go over how burst works for Dragoon, I want to go over a very important fundamental for Dragoon specifically, and that is how to properly manage your Mirage dives. Now, as you know, if you use the first move in the single target GCD or the AoE GCD, either Radiant Thrust or Doom Spikes, you will activate your first of two gauges known as Blood of the Dragon. Both gauges, Blood of the Dragon and Life of the Dragon, do the exact same thing, and they give access to a move that is either Drg General or Nastron. Now, to unlock either Drg General or Nastron, you must first fully open the eyes of the dragon. You may do so by using 2 Mirage dives. As well, both SSD or Spine Shatter Dive and High Jump Kick both provide a refill of 1 Mirage Dive upon the use of each action respectively. Now, this is the important bit. It is very crucial to understand how to properly avoid Mirage Dive clipping. This term essentially means that you want at no time or with a very small window of time to have 2 charges of Mirage Dive present. You always want to have one on cooldown and use your Mirage Dive refresher of either High Jump or SSD to gain your extra Mirage Dive to maximize potential damage output. This means you want to avoid putting in extra Mirage Dives when you already have gear or NAS available. A great practice in getting the muscle memory on not clipping and wasting Mirage Dives is the following: Mirage Dive, SSD, gear, Mirage Dive, High Jump, MD, and Nastron. And in between OGCDs, please make sure to properly incorporate your GCD of choice, either melee, range, or AoE. You know you have done this practice right, where near the end, after you use Nastron, you have gained another stack of Mirage Dive from natural cooldowns. Note, this is not the recommended DPS rotation of the video, as a lot of buttons must be pressed in quick succession. This is more of a rotation to get your brain used to tracking and understanding how Mirage Dive works. Bonus tip: if you are in a situation when you are not in optimal range to use an eye spender and you have 2 Mirage Dives, for example, your enemy has LOS'd you and you have 2 just sitting there, I highly suggest that you wait for the most optimum time to do a burst with your eye opener first, followed by your Mirage Dives, as it is more viable for you to burst with the eye spender than it is to juggle with the Mirage Dive cooldown. Now that you understand how Mirage Dive management works, we can go over the different types of rotations or combos you can use as Dragoon and when to optimally use your buffs in dueling. Dragoon has 2 playstyles that depend on whether you are in range or in melee range. But it all boils down to which GCD you use. For both bursts, you want to have the following OGCDs available of 1 Mirage Dive, a High Jump, and an Eye Spender. When you are in melee range, you want to ideally burst between the GCDs of Fang and Claw and Wheeling Thrust, as both do 1.6k potency. And then also include the following OGCD rotation of an Eye Spender, a High Jump, and a Mirage Dive. The same is for when fighting in range, except you swap Fang and Claw and Wheeling Thrust for as max distance as you can go, Talon Fang, as it has a max potency of 1.6 when at max range. This means the rotation will now go Talon Fang, Eye Spender, High Jump, Talon Fang, Mirage Dive. Right? This rotation will net a good amount of damage in a small window to a target. If you're running Feint or Bloodbath, I suggest using it after you use Life Surge, as Life Surge provides a 50% damage increase to your first weapon skill only. So, always make sure that you use Life Surge before your Bloodbath or your Feint so you don't waste any precious seconds. Skydiver, as well as Spine Shatter Dive or SSD, are 2 abilities that I recommend to use outside of a burst, as they are considered to be gap closers. To create a mental association, when playing range, you can use Star Diver when you are about to do a big damage burst, and SSD when you're about to do a small damage burst. That is mental association. I recommend not using any buffs like Feint or Bloodbath before these gap closers, as they have a travel animation. The farther you are, the longer the animation. If you want to include these gap closers in your burst, I suggest using them last second in your burst right before Feint or Bloodbath expires, as it will count to be used in the buff despite the long animation. Note the same can be said about High Jump, however the animation is significantly faster, so it can be used in a burst combo. The topic of both counterplay and movement are tied together in these coming points, as your ability to take advantage of your range and gap closers as well as Mirage Dives, will dictate how well you're able to counterplay your counters. Now, Dragoon is a highly aggressive class with no built-in mitigation, other than arm's length, but that is an additional. No built-in damage mitigation like shields. Elusive Jump is a great mitigation tool, as you can use it to jump away and get behind covers, as we all know, but the best type of mitigation is mitigating the damage the enemy cannot do because they cannot hit you. Like tactical fully repositioning. Anyway, despite being a highly aggressive class with a high aptitude to apply high pressure, you still need to activate Blood of the Dragon with a single target or AoE GCD to start the ball rolling. However, this is where the playstyle changes. When running the range playstyle, for example, it is important to note that Piercing Challenge will do both increase damage the farther you are, as well as prevent you from losing Blood of a Dragon or Lift of the Dragon. Common Opener may consist of using a single GCD or the range or the AoE GCD to start Blood of a Dragon, followed by 2 Mirage Dives to open eyes, then play from a distance and spam PT until your burst is ready. After that, use SSD or SD to enter melee range and use the burst combo above. When fighting slippery range classes who have the ability to stun and run, you can use SSD or SD to gap close. Then when bound or heavied, use Elusive Jump to also gap close back to them, as well as remove the effects of binds and slows.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
To do the Elusive Jump gap closer correctly, simply turn your back 180 degrees towards the direction of the enemy, and then press the Elusive Jump button and it will propel you backwards as a sort of impromptu gap closer. Please also make sure, when not in range, to use Piercing Talon as often as possible. When fighting melee, it is important to control the pace of the fight. Melee can struggle with range, as their range damage potential is significantly lower than the range damage potential that Dragoon can offer. So, as Dragoon, it is crucial to understand how to kite when fighting melee DPS and get comfortable with moving and doing damage at the same time. A good rule of thumb is to fight with the range playstyle, as you can spam PT as often as possible, as if you play at max range, you have a high damage output of 1.6k damage. As well, if you are running Bloodbath, try to use your Bloodbath out of rotation of the other melee's Bloodbath, as you can gain the benefit of the high healing potency with the range variant of the aforementioned burst. Then, when the enemy has their Bloodbath, you can just Elusive Jump to safety. As well, avoid bursting into high damage mitigation shields like Cheetah, the Blackest Night, Hollow Ground, as it is best to wait for those. And to counter retaliate, always make sure to use as few OGCD as possible when the ability is up, as you might bite off more than you can chew. It is important to note that depending on your playstyle and how well you are able to string your attacks together, you can run Bloodbath with Feint as your additionals to do high heals and high damage, although your attacks might be more easily telegraphed. For increased survivability, I suggest using Arm's Length with Bloodbath to give yourself the mitigation that Yoshi P never gave you. Feast and Frontlines. As a melee, it is your main job to do calls and lead the pace of the match. The main benefit that Dragoon has over other melee classes, as they can call from a distance and then use SSD or SD to engage the target, making it difficult to predict a properly coordinated attack. Your burst window, after diving in, should be focused on dealing high damage in a short amount of time. To maximize, you can use lifesteal 2 to 3 seconds before the countdown hits 0, then dive in and proceed to use GCD plus an eye opener, then a high jump GCD, then Mirage Dive. This rotation may also be done in range, with the exception of swapping the high jump for Mirage Dive order, as the animation frame for Mirage Dive is faster than high jump, as well as replacing your GCDs with your Piercing Talon. If you do not want to give your burst away, you may also Elusive Jump backwards towards your target's range for more unpredictability, And elusive jump can also be used as an escape tool when being bursted on to break binds, slows, and holomong. What? Anyway, when playing Frontline Dragoon, you have insane solo dueling potential as their burst allows for high damage right at the beginning of any engagement. As you can use SSD to drop in on any target, and then solo and just destroy them with a massive amount of burst damage. It is important to also include that Stardiver, Gearskogel, and Nasser are all high damage moves that does consistent AoE damage to anyone in range of the attack. So, if you are low HP and you want a high amount of healing, pop Bloodbath before jumping into any crowd of people with Stardiver, as the AoE from the impact of hitting the crowd will heal you to full like that. Anyway, that does it for today's comprehensive guide on how to properly pole dance as Dragoon in PvP. Please don't forget that this is just the basics guide, and playstyles can differ from duelist to duelist. A reminder, this is not a be-all end-all guide, as the path you walk on for here is just the start of your climb to the summit. And if you're interested in seeing my lovely face play a variety of games ranging from FPS games to sandbox rhythm, or just want to listen to something while you wait for those amazing cues to pop, come stop by at my Twitch at twitch.tv/Masietro. Link will be in the description below. Anyways, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy hunting, fellow wolves. Bye.